So, I'm going to start a new series where we go through some of the writings of Lloyd deMause. I'm not exactly sure how I came across this guy. Probably sometime around 8 or 9 years ago. I believe I found him through a book called Auschwitz, A New History by Lawrence Rees. I think in that book there is a part where he describes how Hitler kept a picture of his mother and a picture of Medusa on his desk. Let me read a bit of it for you so that you can see why I was intrigued. Hitler's conviction that he got his power from his mother was so literal that he kept pictures near his desks of both his actual mother Clara and of Medusa, whose gaze turned people into stone. Hitler said of the painting of Medusa, "They are the eyes of my mother." Medusa's gaze was so deadly that one look from her could kill you. Hitler endlessly practiced before a mirror so that his eyes would be killing mother eyes like those of his own deeply depressed mother. Staring at his Nazi soldiers, Hitler could empower them also to be fused with the powerful killer mother, saying, "I want to see again in the eyes of youth the gleam of the beast." I just remember that was the story in the book that connected me to Lloyd somehow. It was such an absurd thing to read, and I got curious, so I looked him up. He is a lay psychohistorian whose shtick was analyzing the collective psyches of nations in the years leading up to a war or major historical events. In recent years, I have developed a hatred for the psychologizing of every event in person, and given how much of conventional psychology seems to be proven wrong over and over again, it's best to take this kind of analysis with a grain of salt, considering it's done by a layperson and it's basically speculation. It's on the same level as like panpsychism. Along with taking those factors into consideration, deMause is discussing the Nazis and the Holocaust and writing well within the framework of boomer truth. And so a lot of what we're going to go through is basically boomer fan fiction about what the Nazis did. So I'm sure you're asking yourself, well, why then are we going to go through what he wrote? Well, I have a couple of reasons. The first is that if what he says is true, then it probably aligns with the historical reality that the Weimar Republic was a place filled with obscene amounts of degeneracy and barbarism. And his writings go into a lot of detail of how Germans treated their own kids. So it's interesting just from that aspect alone. I've never heard anyone bring up this book or deMause, but maybe I'm just unaware of some great thinker that's highlighted him before. The second reason I wanted to go through this article is because it shows the tendency of people to over-exaggerate. Here's a life truth that I've learned in my time here on Earth. Whether a person is religious or not, they will believe in some form of woo-woo. Whether it's transubstantiation in Catholicism, or whether it's George Harrison claiming you can actually meet with God through Krishna consciousness and meditation, or whether it's feminism and the patriarchy, or maybe you believe trans women are women, the human need to believe in a dumb and unverifiable worldview remains a constant. This is why atheists were wrong when they say that people leaving church and religion en masse is a good thing. They claim that it's a shift towards rationalism, but what we're seeing is people just move on to believing in other kooky stuff. It turns out that most religions were the most harmless woo-woo option there is, and that changing your woo-woo worldview to something in the political sphere, which does offer many different denominations and forms of religion, has turned out to be a mistake. The magnitude of the paradigm shift that humanity went through in the aftermath of World War II cannot be overstated. This is what academic agent calls the boomer truth regime. Quote, "Every era has a truth regime, a set of normative assumptions, which set the boundaries of thought and police the parameters of allowable opinion." In this boomer truth regime, the biggest possible evil is Nazism. It's collectivism, nationalism, fascism, populism. Individual self-expression is the highest possible good. The Nazis are bad because they tried to police that individual self-expression. In our retelling of history and in our post hoc analysis of what the Nazis did, people use that same religious imagination to taint and reframe the events of the past. This is exactly what Lloyd deMause does in his writings. He's writing within the approved Overton window in the Boomer Truth regime. If you want to find the connection between child abuse and the Holocaust, your mind will literally invent the connection for you. It's nothing more than his imagination running wild through the medium of psychological analysis. His analysis is akin to the woman who tries to convince people that Monster energy drinks are a tool of Satan to get Christians to drink something demonic. Well, you see, the letter M is actually made of 3 symbols in Hebrew for the letter 6, thereby making it 666, the mark of the beast. And when you tilt the can upside down to pound the drink, well, see, you're flipping the cross and you're making it upside down, which means that there's witchcraft involved. Ooh! If you want to make a connection, your brain will create one whether there is one or not. This guy is worth reading, if not just to see him make the incredible logical leaps that he does. We're going to be going through chapter 6 of his book, The Origins of War and Child Abuse. The chapter is titled The Childhood Origins of World War II and the Holocaust. It's pretty lengthy, so I'll probably split it up into 2 or 3 parts, depending on how long it ends up taking me to read it all. This is just part 1 where I introduce you to Lloyd deMause and who he is before we take a look into him and his work. Anyways, that's all the time I have for this one. If you enjoyed these videos and type of content I'm making, consider giving this video a like or maybe subscribing. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.